Hello and welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of the New Construction Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Anya Chrysanthon, and I'm very happy to introduce my guest for today, Mary Marshall. Mary is a president of FPG, which stands for Forest Performance Group. So welcome to the show, Mary. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Anya. I'm very, very happy to be here, especially with such a seasoned, accomplished sales professional like yourself, also a woman in this business. And so I love that. I'm very, very honored and thrilled to be here.
Oh, thank you so much. So you guys, I had a pleasure of meeting Mary at IBS this year, and I got a chance to sit in on one of her presentations, and I was just blown away by your energy. And what I loved about it is all the stories that you brought into your presentation. It felt very like I could really feel what you were talking about. So I'd love to get into that at some point, how you use storytelling and how maybe we can use storytelling as sales professionals. But why don't we start things off by learning a little bit about who Mary is. So if you don't mind telling us about your professional career progression, how you got started, and what is it that you do now?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. I've always wanted to be in sales. I came from a family of sales professionals, and so sales was always spoken about in my house of, oh, this person's a salesperson. And it was the most reverence. And I remember asking my mom one time, Mom, you keep telling me, you keep describing people saying this person's a salesperson, and I don't know what that means. And I remember her telling me, well, Mary, that means that this person is sharp and smart and polished, and they love helping other people, and they're solution providers, and they're the people that you want to know, and they're the people that can help you get where you want to go. And I thought, well, that's exactly what I want to be. And so that was my programming around what it meant to be in sales. And so I had lots of different sales careers. The first one started off the worst. I worked as a telemarketer, and I called people during dinner time and asked them for money. So that was I started with a lot of tears and worked my way through that and ended up loving that career. And so when I moved into traditional sales, where I got to give somebody something for giving me money instead of writing a little thank you note and giving them a sticker for their car, I was like, this is the best thing in the world. And so I've sold a lot of different things, and then came over to work for Jason Forrest at FPG about 5 years ago, and worked in sales here, and then started training and getting to work one-on-one and with big groups of new home sales professionals, and working with their managers and now their leadership team. And through that, have just pretty much had every position at FPG, and 6 months ago was promoted to president. And so now I'm really excited that I get to work with all of our clients in some way.
Amazing. Well, congratulations on your promotion. Very well deserved. And what strikes me about your story is that how your mom talked about sales professionals, because I think when you ask an average person about what they think about salesperson, a lot of the times people have very icky feelings about it. And I think even ourselves as sales professionals, oftentimes we do associate sales with something negative almost. And a lot of us do that. And I feel like it's so important to feel good about what you do. And I think that is a big part of whether or not you're going to be successful, is how you think about the sales role. What is it that you're doing? So I love that your mother instilled that in you from get-go, is that you're awesome if you're in sales. So I think all of us should, almost like print this out on the wall somewhere and hang it in your office, and you can read it, and to remind yourself that what you're doing is very important, that you are changing people's lives, and that people should know you.
Yeah, I mean, one of our missions here is to bring back the pride, purpose, and respect to professional selling, so that the next generation of sales professionals, they're not growing up with that. And I know you're a mother. One of the things that's so hard for me as a mother is I want Elizabeth, my daughter, to grow up, and if she chooses a career in sales, I want her to be so excited about that and not have that programming. So one of the games I play with her, really with myself, is when she asks me something that I want to say no to, I try to say yes. And here's it. So she's like, Mom, I really want to watch this TV show. Yes. And first, let's make sure your bed is made and make sure that your homework's done, and then you can watch the TV show. Because I'm so cognizant of how much we grow up hearing no means no. Don't ask again. Don't do this. And then we get into the sales career, and we've been told over and over by the people we love and respect the most, no means no, don't ask again. And they go into sales, and you cannot be successful in sales if you don't ask again. And so I'm trying to right now program her so that she can be a successful saleswoman as well.
I love that. Love that. Start them from an early age. And you know what? Children are the most successful salespeople, right? Because they're just relentless. So if you can take away anything from a child is, keep going after it, because if they want something, oh my goodness, how many times they're going to ask you, right? And if you think about yourself as a salesperson, like many of us stop at a no. One no, right?
We do, and our kids don't. And you're right. And it's funny because I believe there's always a debate on, is a salesperson, are you born a salesperson, or you have to train to become a salesperson? And I believe that we're all born salespeople. It's just that we sometimes have other programming that stops our natural sales ability. So I think you're absolutely right about that.
Yes, definitely. So if anything, takeaway is be a child. Right deep down, think about that sale as like you wanting that candy or whatever it is that you want, and just go after it. No is not an answer, right? Because the child's never going to stop. So you should act as a child in a sale.
Beautiful. I love that.
Love that. So you mentioned that with your current role, so you're president, you're overseeing a lot of different people now. And so part of what you guys do is sales training, right? So one-on-one sales training as well as a group sales training. So as a trainer, do you see kind of like a common denominator that most salespeople struggle with, that you're like, that it's like an easy fix or something that you could say like, okay, you just try to do this one thing and that'll make a big difference for you?
Yeah, I think one, just to yes and what we've been talking about is that mindset of being a sales professional. I'd mentioned that I was in telemarketing at the beginning, and I was very unsuccessful at the beginning. If I was calling people asking them for donations for money, and if they told me no, I said, okay, thanks, no problem. And I hung up the phone as fast as I could. If they said, but the people that were already going to give, I got those donations. So I was right middle of the pack with my group. There were 60 of us, 60 sales professionals, and I was right middle of the group. And what's interesting is the shift for me was I realized that my whole walk into work, because I didn't have a car at the time, so I had to walk to work. So my whole walk into work is I was thinking, gosh, I hope I don't interrupt anybody today. Oh man, I really hope that that I don't interrupt somebody's dinner. I hope that I don't call them while they're having their family time. They've worked really hard. I hope they haven't had a bad day, and I'm adding to their bad day by asking them to give money. What if they don't have the money to give? Are they going to feel shamed to have to tell me, Mary, we don't have any extra money? And so everything was a negative. My whole speech pattern, my whole thought process was negative about it. And when I switched over, because I found the best person at the job and realized he was a really good person and a really nice person, but he was also very successful. And I realized that there was something in me, and it wasn't conscious, that said, if I'm successful here, there's something wrong with me. There's something negative about it because my job is negative. So if I'm good at it, that's bad. And his whole philosophy was, he said, Mary, we're calling people and we're taking something off their to-do list. And these people are so successful and they don't have time to write checks and think, and send them in. We can just take care of that for them. And they probably have some stories that they want to tell that their friends and family are sick of hearing, and we can listen to those, and they can have a better night because they had a great conversation with us. And I thought, I've never had any of those thoughts before. And so I just started, I didn't even believe it at first, but I would just walk to work and go, I'm going to be a blessing to somebody today. I'm going to help them make a decision. It's going to be off their to-do list, whether or not it's right for them to donate or not. Either way is okay. I'm going to help them have resolution, and it's off their to-do list. They don't have to think about it anymore. And as soon as all my thoughts went in that positive direction, and I was proud of the work that I was doing with no additional training other than that, the same scripts in front of me, I went to being number one with that one thing. And so that was huge for me, because I realized, wow, it is sometimes knowing the process. We have to the basics of knowing, the knowledge from our industry of how to write contracts and how does financing work and how are our homes built. And we need to know that stuff.
Right.
But that alone doesn't lead to sales. It's our energy and it's our mindset going into it.
Yes, it's the enthusiasm. And I think the easiest thing to think about it is these people are walking into your model home. So clearly they want to buy a house from you, right? Like, so if you can make that happen for them, you're changing their life. So it's a little shift and can make a world of difference.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. And the coolest thing about it is, now, as sales professionals, we have quotas. Our money is reliant on what our results are. And so when we can also take that pressure off of ourselves and know, I'm going to help this person make resolution. I'm going to help them. And my home might not be the right one. And that's okay. They're going to know that by the time they leave today. So also, I don't have 500 people to do follow-up calls with. We're deciding, we're making resolution. It's a gift for them, but it's also a gift for us because we don't have the weight of, my CRM system has 500 people that I need to follow up with. That feels so heavy in the morning to start with. We know that, okay, I'm going to move it forward with somebody. I'm going to help have resolution. I was first in sales. I was having stomach aches every day. I was feeling sick. I was nervous. And as soon as I let go of that, and I became light with it, interesting how immediately my sales adjusted as well.
Yeah, so it is all about your mindset. And if you are not proud to be a salesperson, chances are you're not going to be very good at it, or at least you're not going to be very successful long term. So speaking of long-term sales success, the determination is definitely one factor that separates successful salesperson from not so successful salesperson. So when we're talking about determination, you were certainly determined in what you wanted in your career, right? So I heard an interview that Quint Lears did with you at Sales Central. I think it was last year or a few years ago. And you shared a story of how you were basically shut down for a job that you really wanted. So if you don't mind sharing that story with us, I think everyone would love to hear what was said and how you turned that around.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was just graduating from college and I knew I wanted to go into sales. And I was going to a holiday party, a Christmas party, and I knew that the president of a company I wanted to work for was going to be at the party. And so I got all professional looking and ready, and I went to the party. And about midway through the night, I finally had enough courage to go and talk to him. And I introduced myself and I had a conversation. And I said, sir, I want you to know that I'm going to graduate from college at the end of May. And I really want to be a sales professional and I want to work for you. I want to sell for you. And he immediately started laughing, which I thought, my first instinct was, he is so excited that I have come to talk to him.
About your enthusiasm, right?
Yeah. I was like, yes, this is going so well. And then the words came out of his mouth, which were, oh, honey, we don't hire little girls to be sales professionals here.
Oh my gosh.
My stomach just dropped and I was so embarrassed and immediately thought, oh my gosh, maybe I'm not cut out for this. Maybe I couldn't do it. And it's funny how even when we're confident in something, even when we had success, there's sometimes words and things are said that immediately shift us. And so I spent the rest of that night feeling pretty terrible and holding back tears, but decided that I was still going to go and find a job in sales and a career in sales, and was able to do that. It was not for him, of course. It was not in his industry. I will say years later, working for FPG, we did go and train one of his competitors. And that was a lot of fun to watch one of his direct competitors have a ton of success. They actually, I think, grew 55 million in the first year.
Wow.
And I went to Jason and said, I want to train this company personally. I want to go in there and train them, and did. And but at the same time, like I believe that everything in life happens for us, and we can look at it and say, this is happening to me or this is happening for me. And at the time when I was rejected for the job, rejected from even interviewing for the job, I thought, this is happening to me. And now looking back and go, that that was a good thing. It gave me a little bit of drive to go and say, I can do this. I might be a little girl. I can't take that away, but I can go do this. And so now, years later, I'm happy about it. I'm also happy. One thing I do want to share, I think we get a lot of energy and we can get some momentum from rejection. But the thing that has really helped me the most is instead is looking for the people that do believe in you, because all of us that are successful in sales or really successful in anything, somebody has believed in us. Somebody has seen more in us than we saw in ourselves. And so choosing to focus on them and using that energy, that's an energy source that doesn't go away. And it's much more powerful than the, I'm going to get you. Now, I did have a little that, I want to win and I want to prove you wrong. But proving somebody else that believes in you right is so much more powerful. And so I'm really excited that I try to remember that when I have the times where people tell me what I can't do, is instead of just being fueled by that, is find somebody that says, hey, you can do this, and believe them.
Yeah, I'm just so happy that did not deter you. And it sounds like, if anything, it gave you that push to say, well, see what I'm going to do. And obviously, look at you now. It's amazing. I felt like I fell on my face with sales, and you're right that I had so many positive people around me, rallying around me, that I was like, oh my gosh, you know what? I could, plot a revenge, Arya Stark style, which I really wanted to, but is it productive? Is it worth it? And, if you do have those positive people that you can surround yourself with, it's amazing. Especially sometimes when they show up. Like you, I'm a big believer that in the moment when something bad is happening to you, you're thinking like, oh my gosh, this is the worst thing in the world, and why is this happening to me? But then oftentimes looking back, it may be the best thing that's ever happened to you. So whether it was a push that gave you that drive to succeed, or it was a different direction for your career, I'm a big believer in that. So I truly believe that everything happens for a reason, and sometimes that reason really sucks and you're like, what is the reason for this? There's no way, but it definitely is. So if you're going through something like this right now, just know that you don't have to listen to this a-hole, that you can say, no, and I choose to do this, and I will do this, and I will succeed at this. So it's just, again, back to the mindset.
Yeah. And I love that. And Anya, I've seen your list of awards and accolades in this business, and it is insane and amazing. And I think one thing, especially when people are new, is sometimes there's something in us that says, if I'm not good at this at the beginning, it must not be for me. I'm not cut out for this. Mm-hmm. And the most powerful thing for me in any new job that I've taken is going back and going, okay, nothing felt natural at the beginning. Sales did not feel natural for me at the beginning. And I remember, people telling me, people that I love, going, maybe this isn't the right career path for you. And that's okay. And they were saying it out of love, out of trying to help me find the right fit for me.
Right.
But what's so cool about it is that I love hearing from, stories from people like you too, with all of these like award. I mean, you've done everything in new home sales, and now it goes, hey, you know what? But you fell on your face sometimes, and it wasn't natural at the beginning, which I think is empowering for all of us. Whatever we're doing, or if we're new in sales, or we're in a new community, or we're really masters at selling with a model home, and now we're in a trailer. It's going back and going, you know what? When I was first in a model home, that didn't feel natural. I wasn't great at it, but I figured it out. And then taking that and now taking it to whatever our new obstacle is, whether it's that we're in a trailer, whether it's that we're selling a move-up home instead of an entry-level home, wherever that is, that we can follow that same process again for success. And if we haven't had success in sales yet, is looking to people like you, Anya, and going, okay, Anya wasn't successful at the very beginning and she did it, I can do that too. And that's what I love about this, is really being able, and I think you asked earlier about stories. I love stories because they do connect us. And as soon as we hear a story, we put ourselves into it, and now it becomes possible for us. And so I love that. I love always, right now, I'm completely listening to stories of people that were, and especially women who were presidents of their companies, COOs of their companies, and hearing their failures and going, okay, they messed up and look where they are now. And I can learn this too. I can do it too. And just taking other people's successes and their beliefs and their certainty and bring it into myself so that I can do it as well.
Yes, I love that. So always have that positive role model in mind. And especially if you can have that role model that you can interact with, I mean, that's awesome. But, it's always really nice to have that person. But a lot of my role models, I've never met them. It's the people that I listen to on podcasts. It's people that I watch on YouTube. It's the books that I read. So even if you don't have somebody right nearby you, you can always find a role model that you can kind of imitate. And the biggest thing I always say, like, if you want to be successful, you need to act like you are successful now, right? And it goes back to the mindset. So since you started talking about stories, can you tell us a little bit more about storytelling in sales? So how can we use stories to help us become more successful in our sales?
Yeah, I love that. And what's interesting, just to the science of storytelling, here's something that's really cool, is that within, they did this study where they put electrodes on the brains of storytellers and of people that were listening. And before stories talked, or if you're hearing a speaker, what happens is everybody's brainwaves are their own brainwaves. They're all going in their own direction. And within 30 seconds of a person sharing a story, their brainwaves match up. And all of a sudden, they're going together, and you're in it together. You're now thinking and feeling the same way as the other person. So it's an amazing way to gain rapport. Even if the person doesn't have a similar experience of you, they're now in there with you. So what's really amazing with that is we always hear about gain rapport. And a lot of times, we'll think, oh, well, the person had a soccer sticker on the back of their car. My daughter plays soccer. I'll talk to them about that. That'll be rapport. But that's not real rapport. Real rapport is having being on the same page with somebody and knowing what their outcome frame is, and I'm going to help them achieve that outcome frame. But also, we're so enhanced by stories because when our brainwaves match up like that, now the person that you're speaking to can really hear what you're saying. They can feel your intention. They know they're in alignment with you. And what that means is that when you are sharing with them the reasons to purchase the home or how it could help them, they're not thinking about other things. They're not thinking about the last home they were with. They aren't thinking about the last sales professional, or, oh my gosh, we were just talking about soccer and I've got to be at soccer pickup in 30 minutes. They're not there. They can really hear you and listen to you. So where I like to do stories, I think if you're in a model home, have some physical markers of places that you're going to tell stories. So I like to do that because then physically it reminds me this is the place for it, if it makes sense with this client, of course. So if I know, hey, because if we look at how we show our model, we usually go the same path, we stop at the same places, we show the same things, but instead of stopping at the corner of the island in the kitchen and knowing this is when I'm going to share how another family is using this kitchen that's similar to them. I know when I go here, I'm going to, even if we're telling a story about construction, right? Sometimes people start to phase out when we start going into the construction process. But if we could tell it in story form, well, now they can hear it, now they understand it, and they have fun with it. And so I like to have those physical markers I know around the home where I'm going to stop and I'm going to share a story that's going to about somebody else in the home, about myself, or it can be hypothetical, but a story that I know is going to impact them.
So when you think about the type of stories you need to share, like what, I guess, is there, you don't just like tell a random story that like, so is that like the goal is to like emotionally tie your listener to that story, or like relate, empathy, like what's the end goal of the story? Like how do you pick which story do you tell somebody?
Yeah, that's a beautiful question, because you're right. Sometimes we don't want to just be talking and telling about our lives to people. So one that I saw work really, really effectively, and the interesting about this is some people are probably listening going, I do that all the time. I wasn't thinking about storytelling, but there was one home, and it had this beautiful arched way, and it was gorgeous, and you could see the stairs wrapping behind it. And it was just this beautiful place. And what I love of the story there is that another family that had purchased the same floor plan had a teenage daughter. And so they had taken all of her prom pictures there. And then they had them displayed. And so if the family then has teenage kids or kids that are kids at all, that we want to share about those stories. And so now we're sharing about how the family and how this was the perfect place for all the kids to come. And here's where all the pictures were taken. And here's how another family used the home. Of course, only if that pertains to them. If it's people that their kids have moved out of the house, not a good outcome frame for them. But I love that you asked about the outcome frame. The outcome frame is always, yes, how do we emotionally move them in? How do we have them picture what their life looks like in this home? And can they picture it? Because we want to, people buy things to improve their life. And our job is to help people improve their life. And so if we have a story that's going to help move them in, help them see that, help them improve their life, that's the story that we want to tell.
So I guess homework for all of you guys out there is to think about the stories that you can tell. So, right, maybe take a stroll through your model home and just think about what kind of stories could you tell and write them down, right? Because it will probably help you kind of sort things out and really figure out which story would be the best story to tell, and practice telling the story maybe with your partner first to see, because the first time you do anything, it's going to feel really weird and uncomfortable. So you're going to have to really work at it to figure out how to naturally transition into telling the story and make it relevant. So it may take you some time to get there, but it is something that storytelling, we're hearing more and more about it as a tool utilized in sales. And it's a very, very natural way to sell to people instead of, just dumping a bunch of facts on them. You're tying them emotionally into that. So, and yeah, I did see studies done about the brain and what your brain does when you're telling stories. And the most important thing is people remember stories, right? So think about when they leave your model home and they probably been to 6 other model homes that day. What are they going to remember? They're probably going to remember that story you told.
Beautiful. I love that. And I love that you're putting an application on how we can use all of this right now. I love that. One thing too, I want to encourage everybody with is on your stories is cut them down to 60 seconds. Don't have any stories that are longer than 60 seconds, because what we want to do is usually what they really need and what's going to stick with them, you can say in 60 seconds, especially if it's a personal story of yours. We like to add a lot of extra details to it. And so I love, Anya, that you said, practice with a partner, practice with somebody at home. And one of the hardest things I do, and I love you said to write it out, is hand it to somebody else. And this will be painful and it will be hard. Hand it to them and tell them to take out everything they didn't need to know. And you're going to want to argue with them and say, no, that's a very important detail. They tell you you didn't need to know it. Edit it out, because then when we can get really succinct, it's amazing. And the other place, Anya, I love using stories is in visualizations for myself. So I was talking to a sales professional a little bit ago, and her name is Kelsey, and we were talking, and she's like, Mary, I had the craziest thing happen to me this week, and I didn't react the way that I wish I had, but I don't know what to do in the situation. And I said, you must tell me what happened. And she said, well, I was walking around, I was showing somebody my beautiful model home. I've been in her model home. It is gorgeous. And she was walking around with somebody, a gentleman. I'm going to use gentleman loosely. Okay. And he looks at her and he says, Kelsey, this is the ugliest home I have ever seen in my life.
What?
I know.
Okay.
One, there are not ugly model homes, but and this one's beautiful, but she said in the moment, because she loves it, she loves the company she works for, she knows the integrity of the quality, and she got very defensive and started battling with him about it. She said, Mary, I know that wasn't the right thing to do, but she's like, it made me so mad that he would say that about my home. And so what Kelsey and I worked with is, okay, what are some alternatives? What are different ways we could react in that situation? And for me, it's always, I like to go with the idea of yes and. So how I want to agree, yes and. I said with my kids, I do this in sales. And I said, what if we said, Kelsey, if he said, this is the ugliest home I've ever seen, and you went, okay, yes. And I'm wondering, do you have any friends that really like ugly homes? Because I'd love to show them this one.
Love that. Oh my gosh.
It's so silly. And so for Kelsey, what she started, the plan we came up with is that she was going to play the story in her mind, remember the memory with the way she wished that she had responded. That way, we're also using stories to adapt our mind and to prepare us for the future. So if we have these situations, especially the ones that play over and over in our head of, oh, I can't believe I said that, or I misspoke, or I can't believe I did that. We tend to play that over and over. Change the memory. Change the memory to what you wish it had been and play that over and over again. Now, the next time something like that happens, we have more resources in the moment. Now, if that ever happens to Kelsey again, instead of feeling defensive, she's going to feel humorous about it. And when we're humorous and light, we can do a lot more with it. The guy's probably still not going to buy a home, but it's not going to kill the rest of her day. It's not going to kill the rest of her week. And she's going to be able to have more resources in order to handle situations like that better in the future. So I like tricking our own brain with stories as well.
Yeah. I love that. I can so relate to that. I think especially when you're in a sales slump and you have people come through your model and they go, you know, it's the face they make or whatever. And you literally take it personally, right? Because you're like, how dare you say about my kitchen? Like, get the heck out of here. Like, you know, you're thinking in your head, just like, get out of here. Like you know, so this is perfect. I love this. So you guys, if you find yourself in that situation, start thinking about, yes, okay, and maybe how would you change this kitchen so that it suits you? Because a lot of the times, whatever they're going to complain about, chances are, as a builder, you can provide some kind of alternative or something else. And one of the things that I'm a big fan of Grant Cardone's. He always says you should never disagree with the customer, right? So it's almost like even if they're saying something negative about it, agree with them. Say, yes, okay, I can see your point. And what's the solution to this? So you don't drive yourself crazy. And you know, especially you can get really mad if you are not selling homes and people keep saying the same thing over and over. So that should be your cue to really figure out what could be the possible solution if this is something that I keep hearing over and over. Another homework for you guys.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, and I always think I'm an over preparer. We have an assessment we use that helps us to see where salespeople stop their own sales. Mm-hmm. So sometimes, you know, we're great at selling, but the same thing, if we're over the phone, all of a sudden we're like, oh, this feels uncomfortable. Like I'm not great over, you know, you might tell yourself, I'm not great over the phone. I'm great in person. A lot of salespeople say that, or if they have somebody that's their same age or income level that's coming in, they go, okay, I feel really comfortable selling to this person, but all of a sudden somebody who's a lot older, maybe has a higher degree, has more money, and they think, they kind of hold themselves back in that moment. Well, one of the moments when I was first taking this assessment on myself, because I wanted to be better at sales, I realized one of mine was something called over preparation. So I would over prepare, think I just need to know everything. I can't sell anybody something until I know everything about my product. And I think some of us, we get stuck in that place. And so I, you know, had to retrain that I know enough. If I don't know something, I can say that I don't know. But it's interesting for me where I'm able to have my over preparation is thinking about the things that scare me and going, and then writing the story of how it's going to play out. And now that fear is gone. And I know, hey, no matter what happens, I can handle it. No matter what they say, I can handle it. And I can lead the conversation in a way where both people have dignity. And I agree with you with what Grant Cardone says. And in our world, what we say is downstream. Like we all just want to keep going downstream. It's the easy way to go. Don't try to turn their boat the other way. Don't try to go upstream. Just jump in the boat with them and say yes and see where we can take them. That's going to be the right solution for them. So I absolutely agree with you.
Love that. Is there a way that you could share that assessment with the listeners? Is there?
Yeah, I can give you. How can I share? So with that,
let's do this. So after we're done, just share it with me, and I'll link it to show notes so that way people will know where to go
Perfect. Yep. There's 12 different ways that we hold ourselves back, and more than happy, I will give you that link for anybody that would like to purchase one. They absolutely can do it. And afterwards, what we will do for any of your listeners is I'll have somebody on our team review it with them. So go through it and make sure that they're getting some coaching around it as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And it's like a thing about labels, going back to your story with being labeled a little girl, and we don't hire little girls for sales. You know, we do so many labels. We put so many labels on ourselves, and other people put so many labels on us, that it's important to put positive label on yourself. Like I remember when I first started in sales, I worked for a finance company, and I always thought that I was too young. That was like one of my things, like that I worked with really high-end clients in finance, and like, who am I to tell them how to invest their money? Like, I'm just a 23-year-old girl. Like, so that was my own label. And then, you know, there comes a point when you're thinking like, oh, I'm too old to start a podcast. Like, I'm too old to do this. Like, I'm too old, you know? So it's like, there's always something, you know, and especially as women, and I'm sure guys do the same thing too, but it seems like they maybe have a little bit more confidence, or they fake confidence a little better, right? It's always, I'm too skinny, I'm too fat, I'm too ugly, I'm too pretty for this. You know, so just recognizing those labels that we put on ourselves, I think is step one. And then you'll have a lot more power over that label if you recognize it. And then you're not going to be so quick to let other people label you that way. You'll get to control it. Even if they say that, then you can kind of turn things around and not let it affect you. So I love that you did not let it stop you, that you kept going, and look at you now.
Beautiful.
Presidente. So
thank you. I agree with that. And what's cool is it's interesting because it goes through all areas, right? And I love that you said when you're too young, and now maybe you're too old for, you know, we do that to ourselves. I even was thinking about how sometimes we say, well, I'm too new at this. And then it's like, I've been doing it too long, or I have this or this label, and really, deciding to step in and deciding, I remember from going from being the worst in sales to being the best in sales, you would think, well, there's obviously this amazing confidence. You're the number one on your team. So clearly you should be confident about it. And it's interesting, what was creeping in at that time was, have I tricked everyone somehow? Like maybe I really am getting better leads. Maybe my days of the week really are better. Is this really me? Like, can I really, this, you know, imposter syndrome of like, is it going to go away tomorrow? And I this beautiful time, you know, just came back where we met at IBS, and later that night, the same night that or the same day that we spoke, that evening, I was at an event. And so to be vulnerable with you and with everyone that's listening, I was there, and I was speaking with another woman, and she's a sales professional, and we're talking, and through our conversation, several people came up, and she introduced me, and she would introduce me. This is Mary Marshall. She's president of FPG, you know, Jason Forrest, the company that he's built and how big it is. Well, she's the president of that company. And she did this a couple of times. And after about the third or fourth time, the person walked away, and she looks at me and she says, Mary, how come you shirk every time I say your title? Why do you do that? And she goes, are you embarrassed? Are you embarrassed when I say who you are? And I said, oh my gosh, I think I am. I think I am embarrassed. I think when you say president, it feels pretentious. It feels, I don't know, it feels weird. And I don't know. And she said, Mary, look around at the number of women in this room. There's not a ton of us. You're a president of a company, and we all need you to act like it.
Yes. Love that.
It's amazing, right? And I thought, one, the cojones on her to sit there and tell me, act like a president. I thought, she's freaking amazing. And I thought, and I just looked at her and I said, thank you. Thank you so much for saying that to me right now. And you're right. And I do need to act like it. And I do need to not shirk from it. And I do need to man up. If I'm in my office, I'm doing it, I'm fine. But for some reason, I was feeling uncomfortable. And I said, thank you for saying that. Thank you for pointing that out. I am going to step into it right now. And it was the best thing. And that's just, as sales professionals, man, woman to woman, that's how we need to treat each other. That's how we need to step into it. And we need to hold each other accountable to being who we are. And when we see another sales professional go, yeah, I work for this home builder, but they don't say I'm in sales, we need to say, hey, when they're, pull them aside, you're a sales professional. It's amazing. Own that. We all need you with your intelligence and your integrity and your beauty and your what you are showing the world and your creativity. We need you to own it. We all need each other to own it so that that becomes the new image. So I felt like in my heart, I needed to share that right now.
I love that. I love that. So Mary is the president and you guys act like the salesperson that you are and go change people's lives. I truly believe that. And I'm going to come back to the story that your mom told you about salespeople. I'm definitely going to write it out and I'm going to share it in the show notes so you guys will have that to refer back to if you're ever doubting yourself. So Mary, thank you so much for being here today. Now, if somebody wants to connect with you, they want to learn more about you, more about your company, what you guys do, what's the best way to connect with you?
Well, very easy. It's fpg.com. You can connect with me directly from there. All social media is on there. My email is on there. And I would love, like, I will answer all the emails if people have questions. And the other way, something I'm so excited about is we have this just amazing masterclass. It's once a month with Jason and I, and it's just on mindset. So whatever sales philosophy, if you work with a trainer, if you don't work with a trainer, if your home builder has internal training, it's going to support that. It's going to amplify it. We're just going to look at these ways that we hold ourselves back from our mindset, that we're not feeling big and strong in the moment. And Jason coaches somebody on that. And so I'll send you, Anya, the link to that too, if people want to be a part of it. It's amazing, and it is just on this mental toughness of being a sales professional, because we need to keep our momentum up. We hear no so much, so it's a really great supportive community that is that has each other's back, that's reminding each other and holding us accountable to be who we really are.
Love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. And you guys, I will be sure to link that in the show notes as well. And Mary, I hope to see you at the next IBS or sometime sooner. And it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much for being here.
Of course. Thank you. Thank you. It's been my pleasure. Thank you, Anya.
Thank you. Bye.